Welcome to our Mount Alexander Shire Council meeting of 21st of September. My name is Councillor Tony Cordy. To start the official proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Jara country, of which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. Our apologies for a slight delay in starting proceedings this evening. We've had some technical issues, but our governance people have resolved those now, so well done, governors. We have item 1, we have all councillors present in the chamber. Thank you, councillors. Item 2 on the agenda is no apologies or leave of absence. Councillors, declarations of interest and conflicts of interest. Anything to note, please, councillors? No conflicts of interest to note. Thank you, councillors. Item 4.1 on the agenda, meeting of council 17th of August 2021. We have the minutes of that meeting. We've got a recommendation, councillors. Somebody move that, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Mount Alexander Shire Council held on the 17th of August 2021 be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. We have a seconder, please. Councillor Henderson. All in favour? Declare the matter carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Acknowledgements nil. Public question time. We've got a couple of public questions that have been sent in, and I'd ask Councillor Rosie Anea to read them out, please. Over to you, Councillor Anea.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 questions and I'm going to read them together because they relate to the same matter. The first is from Alice Matheson. My question relates to the earthworks on Farnsworth Street public land on Heritage Overlay 668. Council allowed a retrospective minor works permit to be issued after a dumping of illegal fill instead of issuing a clean-up order for a public offence. The works go beyond the scope of a minor works permit. The executed works are far more extensive than the drawings submitted for the permit. There is no heritage impact statement or planning approval. The planning scheme has been breached. A public walkway is compromised and there remains a long-term safety issue. When will council remove the works and put an end to this expense to the ratepayers? The second question is from David Rayco. Regarding the earthworks on the protected public verge at Farnsworth Street. Freedom of Information documents show that council has paid for an independent engineering assessment that has not been received after many months. These earthworks from March 2020 do not meet any standards for permits or safety or for heritage overlays. It seems logical that the privately commissioned substandard earthworks be removed, as the works will never be compliant. They also create a precedent for abuse of the planning scheme. These works will always be a liability to the council and continue to be a financial drain. My question is, will council exercise its legal right to have the works removed and the verge restored and revegetated, and lands protections under the Heritage Act resumed? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anea. Acting Director Kath Olive, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Anea, for reading out David and Alice's public question. The answer is as follows. Council has now received the independent engineering assessment of the works undertaken and is currently considering the recommendations. Once a determination has been made, all parties will be informed.
Thanks for that, Director Kath Olive. Okay, so just let me check with our guests because I understand they're here to talk to us about, or they're here to see the decision in relation to the sculpture, so they may not have any questions other than that. Ladies, you don't have questions for us tonight, do you? You can't talk about the sculpture. So you haven't got other questions to ask. So thank you very much.
Yes, it will be decided tonight.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so those present in the gallery do not have any questions for us this evening, so we'll move on to petitions and letters. And we've received a in relation to a petition that's before council, we've received additional information and additional signatories with regards to the biomass petition. So we're really just acknowledging that we've received that, and the petition, we've been advised the petition has now been signed online by 101 residents. So council will get back in relation to this petition at a future meeting of council. So thanks very much to Malcolm Mars for sending that in. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Item 8 on the agenda's committee reports is nil. We move on to 9.1.1, Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve, adoption of the landscape concept plan. So this report is for decision. Councillor, would anyone like to introduce this item? Councillor Anir?
So the purpose of this report is to inform the councillors and now the community of the results of the community engagement undertaken to finalise the Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve landscape concept plan and to recommend the adoption of the plan. In April 2021, a third round of community consultation was undertaken on the final draft of the landscape concept for the Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve. 5 responses in total were received from residents, with 3 for providing positive feedback and 2 making general queries. These queries were responded to and no negative feedback was received. To develop the plan and to undertake stage 1 works, a total budget of $259,000 has been allocated, with council committing $249,000 together with a $10,000 community shade grant. The plan has been developed so that a staged approach to deliver key elements can be undertaken as budget becomes available. The estimated cost for the plan, construction documentation and stage 1 works is $186,985. Subject to the outcome of the procurement process and construction of stage 1, there is an opportunity to utilise identified savings to put towards documenting stages 2 and 3. This approach would provide council with shovel-ready projects for grant opportunities and future council budget considerations.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anir. So, councillors, we have a recommendation. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Anir?
I support the recommendation that Council 1 adopts the Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve landscape plan, 2 construct stage 1 works, 3 subject to the outcome of the procurement process for stage 1 works, utilise potential savings to complete detailed design and tender documentation packages for stages 2 and or 3 works, 4 considers allocating funding for the design and construction of stages 2 and 3 in future council budget cycles and or external funding opportunities as they arise.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anir. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Maltby? Any objection to this, councillors? Okay, so it's no objection. Councillor Anir, would you like to talk to the motion?
Certainly. So, the Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve is up in Norwood Hill. It comprises a playground and at present a basketball court. It's used by a lot of people. A lot of people live in Norwood Hill. It's not a great looking playground at the moment. Probably you know, my kids don't rate it very highly out of all the playgrounds that they have at their disposal these days, especially after the addition of the giant slide at Harcourt. So I think Norwood Hill getting a bit of an upgrade is long overdue. Stage one of this is going to completely redo the playground, which is great. I was there for one of the consultations, and one of the biggest concerns, especially by children present, was whether or not we were going to get rid of the little digger in the sand pit. And I'm happy to notify everyone that the digger is going to stay, as are the swings, but we'll be getting lots of other new stuff. Stages 2 and 3, stage 2 is going to change the court into a half court and also put in parkour equipment as a bit of a teenage play space. Which will be very exciting. And then stage 3 is to activate the road reserve, which will also be very exciting. I think I heard words such as natural amphitheatre thrown around. So all up, this is a very exciting project. I think it will cater to a lot of people within the community living up there. And it's really exciting that it's progressing.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anir. Other councillors? Councillor McClure?
I'd just like to add, I think this is a fantastic project. I actually lived most of my youthful life in Lawrence Street, about 100 metres from this site. There was nowhere near any sort of a playground of any description much in those days, but just a lot of deep gullies, but a lot of areas for young people to play. We spend many hours playing there. So it's an excellent outcome for a great site. So fully supported. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor McClure. Councillor Henderson?
Yeah, fully support this. It's a real good news story for council, and what is so commendable from it is that round 1 of 3 rounds of consultation, we're told in the report that 72 responses received from a survey that was handed out to local residents. 72, that's a pretty good response. And it was noted what residents wanted, what they didn't want. There's consultation with our local traditional owners, Uncle Rick Nelson and Auntie Kerry Douglas, and they had their input. That was great, and also Festival of South Kindle. Then had round 2 consultation. So 43 local community members showed up to an on-site meeting. It must have been in a break in COVID lockdowns there, and that was fantastic. So when we hear in the report the introduction that there are only 5 responses, it shows how we've gone from 72 to 43 to just 5, of which they said, yeah, looks good. So it sounds like everyone who had initial input is happy with the result, and I can't wait for this to get going, as well as the possibility with further federal funds floating around, that we might actually be able to deliver the whole thing. That would be fantastic, especially that youth space. I want to see that happen.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Other councillors? I'd just like to echo Councillor Anir's and Councillor Henderson's comments in terms of this project. I think the community consultation has been fantastic, and I certainly commend our staff for their work in this space, because it's really going to be a great project, and looks like it'll be well received. So, councillors, is everyone in favour? No objections, so I declare the matter carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, 9.2.1, response to petition to change the speed limits through Fryestown. Councillor Henderson, would you like to talk to this one?
I certainly would, Mayor. Thank you. So this is a response to a petition that council received on the 20th of July this year, containing 44 signatures, of which 42 were from the area affected, which is important to note, to make it a valid petition to council. It requests that council support changes to the location, speed zones and signage on the approaches to Fryestown and within the township. The requests are based on improving the safety for pedestrians and motorists by locating the speed zoning appropriately to avoid driving confusion where speed limits change in short distances, to improve driver and pedestrian safety when speed zoning is located in crests, bends, or impacts concealed driveway accesses, and to accommodate increased township population and hence traffic within Friarstown.
Thanks for that, councillor Henderson. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Henderson.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move that Council notes that information regarding traffic counts and other information required by the Department of Transport is still being collected to enable an assessment of the requested speed limit change, Two, that the first signatory of the petition will be provided with an update on the status of the request, and three, a further report will be presented to Council following completion of the required information gathered.
Thanks for that, councillor Henderson. Could I have a seconder, please? Seconded, councillor Maltby. Any objection, councillors? Being no objection, I declare the matter carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to 9.3.1. Planning application PA 014/2020, 19 Monaghan Street, Castlemaine. Councillor, to introduce this item, please. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor McClure? Thank you.
Council has received an application for the use and development of the land for a self-storage facility for the removal of native vegetation and the reduction of car parking requirements at 19 Monaghan Street, Castlemaine. The subject site is located within the Industrial Zone 1, Industrial 1 zone, and is affected by a bushfire management overlay. Planning approval is required under both the zone and the overlay. Six objections were received for the application. The application is considered to be an appropriate use and development within the mixed use context of the site and surrounds as the facility is a fairly low impact industrial development within proximity to the residential land. The proposal contributes positively to the streetlight character of the area through its urban design. Any potential amenity impacts are able to be managed through standard conditions. Further, the proposed native vegetation removal is considered to be appropriate and consistent with the principles to avoid and minimise, as the majority of the works proposed are located within part of the site having already experienced disturbance. The proposed reduction of car parking is also considered to be appropriate, as the patronage at any one time is expected to be low and conventional car parking will not be required to access the majority of the storage units.
Thanks for that, Councillor McClure. Councillors, we've got a recommendation. Do we have a motion, please? Councillor McClure.
I'd like to move the recommendation, but with an amendment to the recommendation, Mayor. The recommendation is as printed in the agenda, apart from item 19, which refers to road upgrade, and my amendment is to replace item 19 with Monaghan Street must be upgraded to the satisfaction of the responsible authority by being reconstructed to a sealed surface from the intersection with Martin Street to the eastern boundary of the subject site.
Any further changes, Councillor McClure? So we've got a motion there, councillors. Do I have a seconder, please? Second. Councillor Maltby is a seconder. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor McClure?
Thank you, Mayor. I fully support the principle of this upgrade to the area, this development. It's a great storage facility, something like 460 units, which are badly needed in the town. I understand people have to go out of Castlemaine to find storage units at the moment, so there's certainly a requirement in the town for extra storage units, so fully support the application. My amendment, I don't consider the applicant should be required to construct the road for the full length of Monaghan Street as was proposed by council officers. The street is something like 600 metres long. If Monaghan Street was the only access to the site, then fair enough, it should have been sealed, but it's not. Martin Street will become a major access to that industrial area. The Martin Street leads you to the current tip site and to a number of other industries within an area, including a new industrial zone that's been built up the road a little bit further. So Martin Street is quite an obvious road that all the traffic should be directed to, not Langslow Street down the other end, which has got a very dubious bridge, poor bridge access. So I don't believe we should be encouraging any traffic to be using Monaghan Street for access to the site. So therefore I consider that it's adequate that we only require the applicant in this instance to seal from Martin Street to across the frontage of their site to ensure that they encourage most of the traffic to and from the site is via Martin Street. And I think that's what I need to say. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McClure. Does anyone else want to speak? Councillor Maltby, do you want to speak now?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I support Councillor McClure's comments there. One of the dangers of sealing Monaghan Street would be encouraging people to use Langslow Street, and quite seriously, it's not safe. The current businesses in Langslow Street actually go right up past the animal pound and back into Martin Street already, and we don't want more traffic going back to Langslow Street. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Councillor Henderson.
I think the current businesses in Langslow Street don't use Monaghan Street, but they were asked very strongly not to because they were causing a lot of dust with the big trucks going up the street. So when Langslow Street was approved, eventually, they were asked to use Martin Street as an alternative. I'm a regular visitor to the tip. I come up from the centre of town, coming from the east. I never use Martin Street. I go up Langslow Street because it's quicker. And if I was heading for the storage units, I would be going via Langslow Street and all Langslow. And I suggest that most people who live to the east of this place will be using Monaghan Street. So I'm not too happy about this amendment. I'm not too, I can understand we need these places, but I think that it will be imposing significant traffic on the residents of Monaghan Street. And they're not living there. No one that visits this site is living there. They're storing their stuff. And so it seems a bit of an imposition on the good citizens of Monaghan Street, all except one, in fact all of them I think, live to the east of this site, i.e. still on dirt, to have traffic barrelling up there to go and get that telly that's we've got somewhere stored, or the golf clubs, and then leave again the same way. I'm not happy with that amended clause 19, so I think I'm going to oppose it on the grounds. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. Other councillors wish to speak on this? Councillor Gardner?
I suppose it's more of clarification. I am unfamiliar with the street and sort of hearing what Councillor Henderson has to say. So it's the road where it goes under that bridge.
Yeah,
the little bridge up towards the tip.
That's Langslow Street.
it goes off right off that. It goes off.
Oh, okay.
So it's sealed.
So which bit won't be sealed or not?
The whole thing is not sealed at the moment. It's a dirt road. Dirt road. You turn right off Langslow.
Yep.
Immediately after you've got, well, pretty soon after you've gone under the bridge.
Yeah.
And you go north, or whatever, west.
Yeah, west.
Point, thank you. Up Monaghan, it's a dirt road. It's it's a sort of backwater of Castle Lane, and it's unsewered. So they're different kind of blocks. Digger.
Thanks for that.
Okay,
Councillor Gardner,
alright.
have you got
Yeah,
sufficient?
no, just clarify, I think, I hear what councillor McClure and Maltby is saying, but I think, I personally probably will oppose the alternative motion and would like to stick with the officers on this one, I think, yeah.
Thanks for that, councillor Gardner. Does anyone else wish to speak on the matter? No, so, councillor McClure, right to reply.
I believe the applicant would be asked to provide enough direction for people accessing the site to make sure that they didn't use Lenslow Street, they travel via Martin Street. They can certainly control the traffic leaving the site to make sure that they turn left and go back to Martin Street with the left-hand side out of the site. So I think there are ways and means of controlling at least half of the traffic leaving the site, so they don't use the rest of Monaghan Street. The other danger we have, of course, is if once Monaghan Street is sealed, it'll become a major thoroughfare for all the industries that are in Langside Street. So there are quite a number of industries there, probably a dozen or more. And so that will mean, because at some time a lot of the heavy vehicles can't get under the railway bridge in Langside Street, that Monaghan Street, because it'll be the shortest route, will be the main access route to that industrial estate in Langside Street. So that's the other reason why I oppose the full ceiling from one end to the other. I'm sure that the residents of Monaghan Street are not going to want or enjoy all that heavy traffic to the industrial estate in Langside Street using that road in the future if it's sealed. Thank you.
Thanks for that, councillor McClure. So we'll put it to the vote. Those in favour of councillor McClure's amended motion? Those against? Declare the matter carried. If you would like a division, so those in favour, councillor Neer, councillor Cordy, councillor McClure and councillor Maltby. And those against, councillor Henderson, councillor Gardner and councillor Driscoll. Thank you very much. Okay, councillors, 9.3.2, planning application PA 310/2020, 1 Watson Street, Castlemaine. Councillors, would someone like to introduce this item? Councillor Maltby.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Council has received an application to subdivide land into 6 lots at 1 Watson Street, Castlemaine. The subject site is located within the general residential zone, Schedule 1 of the Mount Alexander Planning Scheme. The site is not affected by any overlays. Planning approval is required to subdivide land under GRC 1. The application is referred to the council for a decision as the application received more than 5 objections. Proposed subdivision is an appropriate outcome with the context of the site and surrounds, as the proposal provides lot diversity with an established residential neighbourhood with good access to services and facilities within the Castlemaine Township. Subdivision is consistent with the lot sizes and subdivision pattern of the surrounding area.
Thanks for that, councillor Maltby. So we have a recommendation for this subdivision at 1 Watson Street. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor McClure.
Mayor, I'd like to, my apologies. Mr. Mayor, I would like to move a motion, the recommendation as printed. The officer recommendation is printed in the agenda, but I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendation by adding a section titled Road Upgrade. There's, and it reads as such. Point 1, Watson Street must be upgraded to the satisfaction of the responsible authority by being reconstructed to a sealed surface from the intersection with Chapman's Road to the western boundary of the site. Point 2, a 1.5 metre wide footpath must be constructed with a sealed surface from the intersection with Chapman's Road to the western boundary of the subject site. And point 3, that the applicant investigate the protection of the large native trees in the road reserve to the satisfaction of the responsible authority.
Thanks for that, Councillor McLeod. Now, do we have a seconder? Councillor Maltby. So would you like to talk to your motion?
Sorry, can you just read the last part of your there about the trees?
Point 3, that the applicant investigate the protection of the large trees in the road reserve to the satisfaction of the responsible authority.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry, can I just have a point of clarification on the Councillor Maltby's last point?
No.
I'm just wondering who the responsible authority might be to investigate the protection of the established trees. Who would be the responsible authority?
The reference to the responsible authority would be to council. Council is the responsible authority in this matter. There may be referral required if it's proposed to remove trees. Director Olive, were you able to get a clarification on that point or not?
Darren, no, I can't provide further clarification other than what you've provided.
That's it. So council will be the responsible authority, and should there be removal of vegetation required, then that could trigger another process.
thanks for that advice, CEO. Okay, so Councillor McLeod, would you like to speak to that item?
Thanks, Mayor. I think this is a good application for 6 lots. It's again, there's a great requirement for more land in the Shire of Mount Alexander. I think I was reading a report the other day that said it might have been one of our annual plans or something that said that we should have something like 15 years supply of land available to ratepayers in the Shire. I'd be surprised if we've got a 1 year supply of land available for ratepayers for building on in the Shire at the moment. So we do need subdivisions. We do need lots like these. It's an appropriate size development for where it is. My only objection is that it should be built to a standard. The council doesn't have to go back in the future and seal roads and build footpaths, because I'm getting plenty of heat from ratepayers who are sick of dust being spread all over their adjoining properties and sick of having more than enough footpaths to walk on around the town. I think it's something that this Shire hasn't paid enough attention to in the past, and I'll be pushing wherever I can to ensure that when any of these subdivisions are built, they're built to a standard, so we're at least got sealed surfaces for not only traffic to travel on, but for pedestrians to travel on.
Thanks for that, Councillor McLeod. Councillor Maltby, do you wish to speak now?
Thanks. Councillor McLeod was right, and I believe that in the future, any subdivision over 3 blocks or 4 should be contributing to infrastructure and leading footpaths and roads. As Castlemaine grows and Harcourt and other areas, the infrastructure should be built when the development is happening, not 20 years later, like what's that street? Ellenwood Drive happened recently.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Does any other councillors wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Anir.
I agree with what Councillor McClure has said. I think that in this instance, upgrading the road to a sealed surface is appropriate, and a footpath would be fantastic. I was out there yesterday when it was raining. It was not a pleasant road to drive on. It would not be a pleasant road to walk on, especially if you had any difficulties moving around or children. I live in a part of Castlemaine that has no footpaths, and I have pushed many a pram up many a hill with no footpaths. It's quite difficult and very unsafe. I always think that building a footpath is a good idea. I was particularly concerned about the trees located in the road reserve at the end of Watson Street. They are, you know, nice trees. I don't get too excited about trees very often, but I thought they were trees worth protecting, and I would be I would be worried about how the development of that road would affect the trees if we didn't put something in there about protecting them as well as we can. So I'd be happy to support Councillor McCullough with his alternate petition.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anea. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Gardner?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and it's really glad to hear what you're saying, Gary, but I did want to probably clarify something that Councillor Maltby said, and the CEO can tell me if I'm wrong. In terms of the contributions to infrastructure, we currently have no legal basis to do that, other than asking them to do the footpaths and roads. So they can't actually we legally cannot force developers at this point in time under the planning scheme to make a financial contribution to this council. So I just wanted to put that on record so that it doesn't get confused, but I think it's a great idea. And we can save a tree, that'll be even better.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Any further comment on that, CEO? Yeah. So, any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor McClure?
No, I've got nothing to add.
Okay, councillors, thanks for that. All in favour? All councillors are in favour, so I declare the matter carried. Thank you for that, Councillor McClure. Okay, 9.3.3, planning permit 120/2021, building and works, artwork sculpture installation at 160 Main Road, Chewton. Councillors, I've got a councillor to introduce this item, Councillor Maltby.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Council's received an application for a building and works artwork sculpture installation at 160 Main Road, Chewton. The site's located within the township zone and is covered by the Heritage Overlay HO 721. 30 submissions of both objection and support to the application have been received. Objections in relation to concerns about undermining the Chewton streetscape, contravening council's public art policy and heritage character. Supporting submissions refer to the recognition of community work, the draw card for local businesses and tourism to the area. The building and works artwork sculpture installation meets all the relevant requirements of clause 43.01 of the planning scheme and is supported by relevant policy. It's recommended that a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to conditions be issued.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. So, councillors, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion, please? Councillor Maltby?
I'll move the council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for building and works artwork sculpture installation at 160 Main Road, Chewton, subject to the printed conditions in the agenda.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Do we have a seconder, please, councillors? Councillor McClure. So, councillors, are there any objections to this? Well, I would just note that I have some concerns about this matter. So, Councillor Maltby, would you like to talk to your motion, please?
Thank you. The application adds to the streetscape of Chewton, another sculpture, another piece of Chewton's history, and another tourist draw card to that community. You only have to go through Chewton any time, you will see somebody stopped and looking at one of the sculptures that are already there. They are on private property, apart from one, and there is no doubt that recognition of local people in this manner, one recognises the contribution that person's done to the community over the years, but it also gives Chewton something similar to the silo art that's drawing people into the Mallee areas by the thousands. You never know, Chewton's general store could reopen, because if we had more sculptures and a trail, the Chewton will prosper.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Councillor, do you wish to speak to that? Right. Councillor Henderson.
Thanks, Councillor Maltby. Thank you, Councillor Maltby, for that. Chewton is prospering. Goodness me, I don't know about the general store, there's been something else. But meanwhile, we have two very lively coffee carts and a good, post office that serves the community very well. And I hear there's rumours in the wind of another business opening up in the near future, maybe, to reinvigorate the local bakery business. You never know. But the bloke that's already there is a sculptor, and I think he's on his time, but he's look, I support this, but I've got some buts. I stopped to look at some of the existing sculptures today, and they are showing signs of wear and tear. They're made of wood. So in this recommendation, in this this motion, there's nothing about the time limit. There's nothing about maintaining the sculpture. I mean, okay, it's on private land, so I suppose as long as it fits the heritage aspects, the design and development overlay that's on the main street, then the state of the repair of the sculpture is not necessarily an issue for council to consider in this context. However, I feel that there's also, I think there's a bit of inconsistency. I'm not quite sure we've granted permits for any of the other ones. I know the one that's on public land we should have, but that somehow, that's got left aside in a rather turbulent time, and Mrs. Dennis stands there waving at people for all to see that have Tupperware on public land. The others are on private land. I can't remember seeing an application for mow the minor or for the lady sitting on the fence or any of the others really. So are we going to be seeing future applications? I think, personally, I would really like to see a plan for Chewton. I think the idea of, I know that people stop and look and read the little inscriptions. Some of them are getting rather worn and difficult to read. There's damage. It needs maintenance. I don't think council's going to take it over somehow. It's really calling for a governing body of some kind, a local community group or someone who has a strong interest in this to somehow take charge to form a bit of a master plan. All right, what is the plan for the Chewton Main Street? Where are these sculptures going to go? Are they all going to be on private space, or are some of them going to go on public spaces? There's the Chewton Pool. Now, there was a great fight to save that. And before that, there was Mr. Archer, who many years was the champion of the pool. He actually helped build it, bless him. And then he was one of the longest survivors of the Chewton Pool supporters, who then revived the pool with the community organisation. So you think, well, we need something to recognise the NSA, even if it's just a tent, to recognise the tent people who set up to protect it when it was going to be demolished. So, I guess what I'm saying is there's lots of opportunities for students to have more sculptures, more things, but who's going to be in, who's going to be out, where's the money going to come from? Is it just for people who can afford to fund their own, or public subscriptions or whatever? I'd really like to see it take the next step up and have a bit of organisation and planning behind it. That's my view, but I'll support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Gardner?
Sorry, I'm going to say too. I must admit, I really admire Councillor Maltby's enthusiasm for the proposed future sculpture trail. I'm a bit sceptical about it, but if it happens, that'd be great, and I'd be happy to be reminded in the future that you're right. This application, I think, for me, I'm not sure it's distressing, but it's very concerning that in the way that's probably split this community. So I would encourage all the members of the community to sort of have a think about that and maybe how they can work together, particularly on some of these issues and not cause future divisions. The main thing I would probably want to say is, you know, for me, this isn't about the merits or otherwise of the person who's of the statute. It really is just a planning issue. And as it's documented, it meets the current planning framework. So there's no reason to not support it.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Driscoll?
Thanks, Mayor. I go to gym in Chewton. I pass this road 3 or 4 times a week, and often I see people look at that, and I've popped out myself and had a look at different sculptures. So I personally think it's a good thing. There was 30 odd objectors with this, and many of those people referred to it does away with the heritage of Chewton, but this application was actually referred for assessment to Council's Heritage Officer, who consented to the application and provided the following comment. The sculpture does not obscure the building and could be read as a garden element separate to the shop. It is not considered to adversely affect the significance of the building. So I'm happy to go with that. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Does anyone else want to speak? Councillor Benita?
I have no real objection to this sculpture. I think as a planning matter, which is what it's coming to us as, it's fine. I did not enjoy the applicant objector meeting associated with it because I think the applicant objector meeting did not boil down to a planning matter. It boiled down to the merit of a person. And I think that is something that should not be brought to council. I found that upsetting, and I think for the applicant who was in the room at that meeting, it would have been upsetting too. I know a lot of people in that meeting said things about it splitting the Chewton community, and I understand how that is the case. I don't enjoy, as a councillor now, having to sit and listen to people fighting over somebody, not a planning matter. It's hard enough when you're upset about a planning matter. This did not feel like it was about a planning matter at the end of the day, and I think that was really unfortunate. So if statutes like this in the future are to come to council, I would like to think that people could think about them as planning matters and not about people, because I don't think that's what we're here for, honestly.
Thanks for that, Councillor Nian. So everyone's had their say? Yeah, well,
I think it's probably the biggest discussion we've had on the family issue for a while.
well, I would just say, in relation to this matter, that I have concerns about it, because I think Councillor Henderson made a point about there not being a plan. Well, there actually is a plan, and it's the existing streetscape is protected by a heritage overlay. And heritage overlay for me implies that it shouldn't be changed with sculptures. So contrary to our planner's advice, I would argue that these sculptures are inconsistent with the heritage overlay, and that's why I couldn't support it. So the other thing is, I think I also share Councillor Neer and Councillor Gardner's concerns in terms of how this issue has been so divisive. But for me, I'd be opposing it because I don't believe it meets the test of preserving the streetscape, which the heritage overlay sets out to do. So that's my view on it. Councillor Maltby, if you'd like to write a reply. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the future and the plan, maybe we should be talking to Regional Development Victoria for some arts funding. I'm pretty sure Council's friend Marie Edwards would help you there. Whilst I can understand your sentiments, Mr. Mayor, if I took it further, I would say that I couldn't build a new house in the heritage area. And there's just been 2 narrow galvanised iron houses built the other side of what was Dawes Garage. I like them, but they don't fit in the heritage area, in my opinion. This is a planning matter, and Councillor Anita is right. That objectors meeting, there were certain people in that objectors meeting that weren't talking to the point, they were talking about people, etc. I believe this will be the right outcome when we vote. And as I said earlier, I do hope that there are other student people recognised with a sculpture down the track. And if Regional Arts Victoria, or whatever it's called today, can help fund it, then we're on a good start. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. So those in favour? Note that 6 councillors in favour. Those against? Myself.
Call for a division now.
Yes. Councillor Henderson. So those in favour: Councillor Anita, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Gardner, Councillor Driscoll, Councillor McClure, Councillor Maltby, and those against, Councillor Cordy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors. Councillors, 9.3.4, budget carry forwards from 2021 financial year to 21-22 financial year. Councillor Henderson, would you like to introduce this item, please?
Thank you. Okay, the purpose of this report is to seek approval to nominated carry forward items from the 2021 budget into the 2021-2022 budget. I can keep going and say each year, Council adjusts the adopted annual budget for items such as previously approved but incomplete capital works or special projects, projects that are grant funded where the funding has either not been fully spent or has been received in advance, or additional grant funding to be received. Can you keep going, or should I just support my motion with my speech?
I think that's fine. Councillor Henderson, so we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please?
Certainly, Councillor. I mean, now it's Council. We approve the carry forward items from the 2020-21 budgets to the 2021-2022 budget as shown in the attachment all councillors have received and which is in the agenda as attachment 9.3.4.1. 2, Council notes that if approved, the adjusted budget will form the basis of the quarterly financial reports for the year 2021-2022.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. Do I have a second, please, councillors? Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the matter, Councillor Henderson?
Well, I think no, it is a very large list, very long list, requests for carry forwards. And if this was a normal year, I would have been thrown backwards quite a long way from my chair to be receiving a list like this. I would think, oh dear, what has gone wrong? And I wouldn't expect the CEO to be sitting where he is now. I'd expect him to be on a horse somewhere, galloping over the hills and far away. However, this is not a normal year, as we all know, unfortunately. And of course, fortunately too, because in the midst of an awful lot of horrible things going on and people leading a very difficult life, the federal government has stepped in and said, what are we going to do to save our country from financial ruin? We're going to spend a lot of money because we can make it printed. And so we're going to give every local council in the country a lot of money to spend, with instructions to spend it on projects that can be done quickly or not so quickly, but will be spent as much as you can in the local region. So what we have here is an exceptional situation. So we've got, in response to the pandemic, the state and federal governments have made new streams of funding available all across the country. Well, state governments only left it territorial, of course. The intent is to support and bolster our economies, right? So for the past 12 months, council officers have diligently worked to source unbudgeted grant funding from these new streams. And so we've been given, so we've got an overall carry forward of 7.21 million, which is almost like total in capital works budget. A key factor to consider is the large amount of unbudgeted grant funding referred to above. 2.5 million of the carry forwards requests related to this unbudgeted funding. Another 25% of the carry forwards requested is for grant funded projects from the current year. So, councillors, we're looking at a large number of things which we know, including the new Christmas decorations, oh, jolly good, which will get done. Obviously, it's going to put a strong burden on our existing capital works plan because of the extra works to do, but I believe quite a lot of it is already underway, and we do have a very good report detailing quite how it's going, and I don't think there's any particular need to worry. I think it's just by and large an exceptional good news story in the midst of a very bad story. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henson. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak?
Just to note that it does look a bit odd, but it's definitely because of the increased balance is reflective of this significant amount of grant funding, which actually will be received late in the financial year for us. So you can't just go spending that money straight away. So that's all.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Other councillors wish to speak about this? Any opposition? All those in favour? Being no opposition, I declare the matter carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item is 9.3.5, 2020-2021 financial and performance statements. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to introduce this item?
Thanks, Mayor. The draft financial and performance statements for the 2021 financial year provided for in principle approval by council. The statements, the council resolution and the audit report are sent to the Auditor General. Any matters of significance, including proposed qualification issues not previously considered by council, are reported back to council prior to the formal sign-off of the statements by two designated councillors. When both council and the Auditor General are satisfied with the statements, they are signed off by the nominated councillors and sent to the Auditor General for signing. The signed and certified financial performance statements are included in the annual report. The annual report must be presented at a meeting of council open to the public within 4 months of the financial year.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. So, do we have a motion, please?
Yes, Mayor, I have a motion that council, one, upon endorsement of the Audit and Risk Committee, approves in principle the draft financial performance statements for 2021. Two, authorises Councillor Cordy and myself, Councillor Driscoll, to certify the statements in their final form after any changes recommended or agreed to by the auditors have been made. Authorises the Principal Accounting Officer to make any changes to the financial and performance statements that may arise out of that audit. 4, requires the Principal Accounting Officer to notify councillors and the Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee of any proposed material changes to be made to any of the statements. 5, sends a copy of the statements in their final form to members of the Audit and Risk Committee. And 6, notes that a final copy of the statements will be included in the annual report.
So we have a motion, councillors. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Maltby. Would you like to speak further to the motion, Councillor Driscoll, or do you think we've covered it?
Yeah, no, it's nothing. It's all in order, in my opinion.
Other Councillor Maltby wish to speak? Councillor Gardner.
I'm going to support it, obviously, but I suppose to me, I did want to raise an issue. I mean, in some ways, it's a good news story in that we have, or it produces a larger surplus than we supported to, were aiming for. And that's partially due to some of the grants brought forward, et cetera, et cetera. But we have also seen quite a significant increase in our cash balance. And so for me going forward, I suppose I have a view that council, we aren't a business. And so it's not about having surpluses. It's about ensuring that we spend the money we receive from our ratepayers on services, or we reduce the rate. So for me going into the future, if this position, which is a good position coming out of COVID, continues, I think we need to sort of start to look at some of that cash and expenditure and how we return it to the community, or how we make sure 100% that those the rates that we collected are used and spent on our community and doesn't sit in a bank.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Other councillors? Councillor Anderson.
Just to note that, of course, that this report has to be endorsed by the Audit and Risk Committee. So that's for general public information. That is an overseeing body that looks at all councils' financial dealings as well as other aspects of how council runs its operations. And it's a very high-powered committee, very high-powered committee actually. And we know that the members of that committee will prove we're experts. That were appointed to it for their particular expertise, that they will be going through the report very carefully and scrutinising it. And then, of course, there's the auditors, the external auditors. So it's not a done deal until it's all been signed off by all these supervising bodies. We have that assurance as well. The public have the assurance that the money is being checked as well as by councillors, by professionals. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. Other councillors? Councillor Rainier.
I would just like to extend my gratitude again to Carolyn Ross, who sat down with me and helped me to understand this report, because financial reports are not my forte. So a lot of the time when we're discussing this stuff, I'm not 100% across it, and Carolyn always takes the time to walk me through it so I understand everything to the best of my abilities. So thank you again, Carolyn.
Thanks for that, Councillor Rainier. Other comments, councillors?
I'd just like to commend Councillor O'Neill for making that effort. I think a lot of councillors, myself included, cruise through quite a few years on council before they start to disperse some of the fog around financial statements. So well done, Rosie.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. I'd also like to thank our finance team. I've been through the financial report myself, and it's a very, very sound report, and it's very detailed and well explained. And I think our finance team, led by Carolyn Ross, has done a fantastic job, and also Director Knight, as well as all the managers in the council and all the people involved. I think it's a fantastic result, and I think COVID year is certainly a different year and unusual year, and we appreciate those grants, but certainly Councillor Gardner's comments aren't lost either, that it's not our aim to accrue large surpluses. It's to deliver services that our community needs, so that needs to be forefront going forward. But councillors, all those in, Councillor Driscoll?
I believe I have a right at the reply.
Yeah.
Also, I understand what my fellow councillor Gardner and Mayor say about the having money in the bank. the entities I run, the businesses I run, I always like to have a little bit up my sleeve for opportunities and those black swan events that happen. So if we can maintain that going forward, I think that's a good thing to do. So we're right there with an opportunity to take advantage of what happens if it all falls out. So I'd just like to mention that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Councillors, all those in favour? Being no objection, I declare the matter carried, and I understand Councillor Driscoll's comments. It's certainly a pleasure to be involved in an organisation that's well run, and we're in a sound financial position, so it's a good news story. Okay, so we'll move on, councillors. Delegates reports. Councillors? Councillor Nia.
All right, so I've been going to some meetings lately, and a few of the ones that I would like to talk about are I sit on the early years steering group, which is exciting. So early years covers 0 to 8. Well, one of my children just aged out of that age bracket, but the other one's firmly in that gap. So it's something that I feel very passionate about. We were really looking forward to being able to run our Early Years Expo during Children's Week this year, which is the last week of October. But due to kind of uncertainty around what's going on, we've decided to postpone that, which is disappointing. But it is just not a great time to get lots and lots of people together in large gatherings. So instead, we're going to be transitioning that to giving out show bags to young children and their families, which will contain resources and some fun activities. The theme for this year's Children's Week is all about children being able to choose their friends. So letting your kids and anyone's kids know that they don't have to be friends with people who aren't being nice to them, basically. You get to choose who your friends are. So we're going to be putting in a lot of activities for kids to, maybe make some friendship bracelets and do some nice things, send some letters, maybe get some pen pal kind of stuff happening. So we're still going to be able to do something in that space, which is nice, although we won't be gathering together. We've still got some forums running, which are pivoting to online. These will be for parents of young children and then also teachers of young children, and they will be around gender in the early years. So we've got a great lineup there, and details about those will be released very soon, including some drawings by my own children. We're also planning some child safe workshops for community organisations in Mount Alexander Shire. Those will be pushed out till next year. And very excitingly, Council will have a new early years officer starting soon in October. Her name is Sally. I don't know very much about her, but I'm very excited to meet her. But Shannon Lacey has been doing an excellent job in her absence. Another great committee that I sit on is the Goldfields Library Corporation. It's probably my favourite one that I go to. Very excitingly, our last meeting on the agenda was the new library plan from 2021 to 2025. I was going to speak about it, but I'm not actually sure if it's out in the public yet, so I might hold that over till next meeting. But it is a fantastic plan, and I'm really excited about it. And the final group that I'd like to mention that I've been going to regular meetings of is the community transition group towards zero net emissions, which is kind of in the process of being renamed the Warrarak initiatives. And Warrarak, a word which I struggle to say, Warrarak, is an Indigenous word meaning silver wattle, which we've been gifted by local elder Rick Nelson. A lot of the work we're doing at the moment is in preparation for a deputation to council in early November, at which will be presented the interim report of that group. And it's basically all about how the community can come up with its own transition plan towards zero net emissions. So they're three things that I've been doing, which have, filled my cup a bit. I also attended an event yesterday, which I'm sure the Mayor or the CEO will speak about. So that's me.
Thanks for that, Councillor Nia. Other councillors? Councillor Driscoll.
Last week I went to the via Zoom the Citizenship Ceremony, which you'll mention later on, which is fantastic. I love going to those. Zoom doesn't work as well, I must admit. It's face to face, but it's just fantastic. So I encourage all councils when they can go to that. And last night I had just one of the normal committee meetings with the John Power Reserve Committee out in Guildford. All those little reserves and committees are struggling. Money's tight at the moment. Water bills are high, electricity bills high. I don't know what we can do, but I know we subsidise and give money regularly over the year to these committees, but it might be something we can look at because, you know, they're people that really love what they do. They don't have a lot of finances and you know, just something I think we need to look at. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Other councillors? Councillor Henderson?
I suppose I can speak very quickly about the Zoom meeting I attended being run by Delft about their strategic fuel breaks, which are being proposed for the forested regions of that area. It's part of a statewide project following on from recommendations of the Royal Commission into the Black Summer 2019-2020. So there are significant breaks proposed to be put through our forest and on the edge of our towns. It's still, I think, initial maps released to conservation and environment groups caused a big stir, but I think they are still in the early stages. Modifications are being made, and the last one of this was seeking the feedback from people in these groups, representatives on their proposals for each individual break and how they felt about it. It was there was a lot of technical, a lot of expert talk, but I think the feeling is it's not quite such a every group hitting the panic button yet. There seems to be quite a good dialogue between Delp and the people managing the project from their end and from the group seeking to preserve the fantastic natural beauty and values of what we have in our local forest. So I'm optimistic that it's going to go well, but it's an ongoing dialogue and a lot of planning, I believe, still to come. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. CEO, would you like to talk your report?
Thanks very much, Mayor, and our report. I'll pick out a couple from my list, which is the list of what we've been up to officially between the last meeting and this one, of course, Mayor. Just before I do pick out a couple, I'm happy to answer questions on any of the items on the list, as always, councillors, but I did just want to take the opportunity, if I may, Mayor, to say a big thank you to Acting Director Kath Olive. This is her last official council meeting with us, so Director Michael Anir does join us in time for the next meeting. He'll be turning up in another week and a half. Also, again, no relation, I understand, Councillor Anir.
I was going to say you should clarify that.
No relation as far as either party knows. But no, I just wanted to take the opportunity to publicly thank Kath Olive for her work as the Acting Director.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with you all.
Thank you, Kath, and you'll continue to do so.
Yes, indeed.
So, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Kath, because it's been a terrific effort by you. Nothing seems to be too difficult for you to take on, and certainly there's some challenging ones there that you're trying to see all the way through to the end, which I very much appreciate, and I have no doubt that the new director, Michael Anir, will appreciate. So, yeah, thanks again. A couple off the list that I'll just mention, councillors. There's one in there about attending a briefing with the head of Victoria and Tasmania NBN Local, so that's NBN Code, which was actually facilitated by Rural Councils Victoria. They helped us all come together as a group of local councils to have that discussion with NBN Code. They've got a $300 million regional co-investment fund that they are trying to get out and make a difference to the NBN access that people experience. That is that's Australia-wide, that fund. It was interesting to learn in the discussion from the NBN Code people that I think I've got this right. our region, which is from here all the way up to Mildura in Bianco's language, is the 5th worst service for NBN in Australia. There's 23 regions, I believe, and yeah, we're the 5th worst service. So we did talk to them about, does that mean we've got more of a chance of getting more of that money? And what are the ratios, and could that mean that we get better ratios? Because it's not free, it's dollar for dollar in some form, some ratio. So we certainly let them know that that's a thought that we would like to see well considered in that process. Alongside that, there's been a lot of work. You've probably heard and read about the 100 gig city idea, which the City of Greater Bendigo has been working on for quite some time, which is the speed that they want to see being able to be accessed in the City of Greater Bendigo. Between themselves and with the support of the Logging Capacity Regional Partnership, that is now the 100 gig region, which includes us, trying to get projects done that gets genuine and very, very fast access NBN across our whole region, because we all understand how significant that change could be for business particularly. So there's a lot of work being done at a local state government level, where RDB is doing fantastic work through the regional partnership to support us with that, trying to make the case for investment here, as well as some pretty great leadership by the City of Great Bendigo and others to build cases and help the rest of us to build cases. And we've got some pretty compelling proposals here as well, if only for the money coming. So we'll keep working on that. The other one I wanted to mention was the presentation that was done by our strategic planning staff, as well as those from Bendigo and also Macedon Ranges, as well as the CEOs were there as well, speaking to the Coleman Water Board. They were doing a series of stakeholder meetings around their region, which of course is very large. And I thought it was terrific. I just want to say thank you to Damien Wells, the Managing Director, as well as the whole board of Coleman, who were very interested in understanding, where do we want to go? Where's Macedon's growth? Where is Mount Alexander's potential growth? Where is Bendigo's growth? And what will they need to be able to do to support that growth? It was an education, it was an information, fact-finding mission for them. No promises. They've got massive challenges like the rest of us to do, with more things to do than the money that they've got. But I thought it was terrific, Mayor, for the board to really sit down and listen to what we saw was the possibilities for our community. And yeah, we'll see where that goes over time as well. But yeah, a big thank you to Coleman for making that effort to listen to what we had to say. And well done to Lauren Watt, who gave a great presentation from a strategic planning perspective about what we've got in play already and where the potential growth areas are according to our plans. So thank you, Mayor. I can answer questions.
Thanks for that, CEO. I just had a couple of comments in relation to meetings that I've been involved with. But one of the things, the meeting yesterday, look, we had an announcement yesterday, a funding announcement by Marie Edwards, our local member for Bendigo West, and it was 100,000 for the creative space in Frederick Street, and also 225 for a supercharged website for creatives to allow for online performance and exhibitions, and really giving the creative sector of the community, which we're very keen to support in our community. It's an important part of our community, and that platform and support will be fantastic. And we all look forward to getting out of COVID, but we need things now to support some of these sectors. So that was a fantastic announcement. 325 extra funding. Some of it we knew about, but was excellent. And I think it just for me it just underlines the strength of the relationship that council and our CEO has been working with our local politicians, members of parliament. Like, we've got a meeting with Lisa Chester's tomorrow, and we're working very hard. And when we see the benefits in terms of the grant funding that we've attracted, and okay, lots of places have got grant funding, but I'm sure prior to our current CEO coming on board, we're missing out on grant funding that we should have been getting. And I really appreciate his efforts in particular to tap into those resources. And it's one of the things that I've enjoyed about the time that I've been there is attending those meetings, and we have robust discussions with our state and federal government parliamentarians and put our case, and we're really achieving results. So I really appreciate your work there, CEO. The other one I just touched on briefly was the Citizenship Ceremony, and very important. Again, it's one of the really enjoyable things that we do at council, and involved in citizenship and welcoming some new and some long-term members of our community to take up citizenship. And it's a really special time, and I was a little bit apprehensive about it because this one was conducted via Zoom, and I thought, it was a bit, I had concerns about it, to be honest. But look, it went very well. Governance really did a lot of work in setting up and making sure it all ran properly. And look, it's a great event. I think we missed out on having a cup of tea and a chat with everyone afterwards, like we do when we hold the citizenship ceremonies in the council chamber. But to hear all the new Australian citizens give a collective cheer at the end, it was almost as good. It was really great. So, as I say, it was one of the really nice things we get to do as a councillor, and I commend that to everyone. The other one, it was interesting. I attended a mayoral briefing, and it was the government staff of Sean Leanne MP, as the Minister for Local Government. Well, it's a briefing by his staff, and was talking about the culture of councils, and in particular, and hearing what goes on in other councils, it just made me extremely grateful about the council that we have and the community that we have, because I think we've got a wonderful council, and we've got a fantastic team where we have robust debate, but and we make the decisions that need to be made, and we move on. And I can just congratulate all of our councillors and executive staff for the way we conduct our business. And I think we're doing a pretty good job compared to some councils that seem like they're struggling. So well done, councillors. I think that's about it for me. Thank you very much. Any further delegates' reports? No. There's no notice of motion, no urgent special business, no confidential items. So I'm happy to declare the meeting closed at Councillor Neer. Before I declare the meeting closed,
Should we ask the directors if they have it?
No.
Sorry, I couldn't remember.
Thanks for that, Councillor Neer, but it's a good reminder for me to thank our directors. And also I want to express my appreciation to Kath Olive for her time as acting director. She's done a fantastic job, and I'm sure you're looking forward to getting back to your normal duties, Kath, but you've really done a fantastic job. So it's been a pleasure working with you in this capacity, but look forward to you training up the new guy, and I'm sure he'll be a good asset to the team, but we really appreciate the work you've done. So thanks to our directors, and thanks to governance for the night. So we declare the meeting closed